Larry Holder, Jeff Duncan here with you. Certainly mock draft season. Jeff and I have completed our fourth Saints mock draft. And Jeff, we've talked about on Duncan Holder a good bit that you can sway in so many different directions with that first overall pick as far as that number 27. And usually I stay pretty consistent when I do my mocks annually. So much so where people are just like, Larry, you're being boring, but I have a conviction on a player. This year, I really don't have any conviction on any certain player for the Saints in the first round because, A, they fill some needs, and so it changes by the week, and yet, B, I feel like you don't know how the board's going to drop, and the jury's out on so many different prospects. It's hard to really forecast at this rate.
Yeah, normally at this time of year, the bullpen, if you will, of prospects that might be available starts coming into focus, and you can kind of narrow it down. But I think, Larry, because so much uncertainty is involved in the top of the draft, we don't know what's going to happen with all these quarterbacks, what teams might be moving up there, that it's created uncertainty at the bottom of the draft too, because this draft, to me, is one of the more wide-open ones we've ever seen. There's so many quarterbacks involved, so many teams that need quarterbacks. That's going to influence what happens with the Saints down at 27. So I'm with you. I've changed a number of times on what prospect I have the Saints getting at 27, and I don't think Mickey Loomis and Sean Payton right now really have a clue who they might select at 27 because of this uncertainty.
Right. They always talk about having this cloud of players, and I'm sure when the pick comes up, they will have a cloud of players. Now, if one stands out so far, say like Ryan Ramczyk, like what happened last year, they take that player. But I'll just say from my latest mock draft, I ended up giving the Saints another cornerback. You might say, Larry, what are you doing? They seem set there, but you can't ever have enough good cornerbacks. And I went with Iowa's Josh Jackson, 8 interceptions last year, 27 passes defensed. And one of the knocks on him, though, is he's only been 1 year starter. And I combated that saying, well, wasn't Marshawn Lattimore only a 1 year starter? So I'm not, at that point in time, I'm not shying away from that. But it also shows in my previous mocks, I've had a defensive end, I've had a defensive lineman. And Jeff, you've gone a different direction as far as wide receiver. So all of these picks could be viable.
No doubt about it. Look, I don't think it matters what the Saints have done at cornerback or wide receiver. I had a selection of DJ Moore, wide receiver out of Maryland. We know that that's a position that the Saints would like to improve a little bit, add some depth. So it makes sense for them there. They've done it in the past with Brandon Cooks. But I really believe the Saints are just going to take the best player that's on the board. Unless it's a quarterback. I'd be surprised if they took a quarterback. I don't think they'll take a running back. But I think wide receiver, cornerback, defensive line, even linebacker, tight end, we've mentioned before, any of those are viable at number 27. It also wouldn't shock me to see them trade up or down because as we've gotten into our draft research, it's looking more and more like a 20-player deep first-round grade draft. The Saints at 27, can they maybe move up and get the prospect they want? They've got the draft capital to do it with 8 selections. They could move up, I think, but it would cost them a lot because they don't really have a lot of high draft picks after their first-round pick.
Right, and someone who showed up in my mock draft on Wednesday that maybe have been a little bit of a head-scratcher to folks is I have Arden Key going to the Saints, but I have him going to the Saints at number 91, their third-round pick. And on Duncan Holder on Wednesday, we had on Dane Brugler from NFLDraftScout.com, and he's not alone in thinking Arden Key could easily fall out of the top 50, and then it's the eye of the beholder. Someone might take him early third round, late second round. He might fall to the fourth round. So at that point, for me, we know the Saints are interested in Arden Key. It's an area of need, but you're not going to gamble on him. So I would think if he got to 91, it would be a good pick for them. But he may fall past that. He's certainly the most interesting draft prospect, I think, in a lot of draft war rooms across the NFL.
Yeah, I think it's all about the value with Arden Key. Where do teams put him on their board, and is the risk going to be worth the potential reward? Because he might bomb out. You just don't know. There's a lot of off-the-field questions with Arden Key. Where do teams feel comfortable? I certainly think at 91 that would be an excellent selection. Considering the needs the Saints have, it would probably be worth the risk, whatever risk there is in drafting Arden Key, because the reward would be so high. This is a guy we've all seen at LSU can get after the quarterback at the highest level of college football. I think that would translate to the NFL. But is he going to be available for you every day? Is he going to be a guy that's going to have the same mindset that the Saints locker room right now has? I don't know. That's the question mark on him.
And we could be doing videos next week and have different mocks and have different players. But this is the most wide open I think we've seen a Saints draft in a long time. Even going back to when they had the pick number 27 and they traded up for Cooks, I think we all knew wide receiver was a need. I was high on Marquise Lee that year. They traded up for Brandon Cooks. I think we had more of a sense of what they needed then. This is just very wide open.
Yeah, it's going to be a really fun draft. In the first round on Thursday, like I said before, it's going to be one of the more chaotic first rounds. I think there's going to be trades going on back and forth. And the Saints, I think, could be in that number. Maybe going up, maybe going down, because they've got the ability to do both.
All right. Follow all our coverage of all things Saints at NOLA.com and in our print editions of the Times-Picayune. Of course, Duncan Holder, 10 a.m. to noon, Sports 1280, NOLA.com, and the iHeartRadio app. So for Jeff Duncan, I'm Larry Holder. Thanks for joining us.